Hey everybody, welcome to Board Game Heaven. My name is Raymond, and in this video I'm taking a look at Grindhouse by John Cohn, published by Everything Epic Games. Grindhouse is a dice rolling, narrative, thematic horror party game for 2 to 6 players, which plays in about 15 to 30 minutes for ages 15 and up. And before I start explaining how to play this game, I'd like to ask you to please hit that subscribe button if you haven't subscribed already. That really does help the channel a lot. And also please check out my Patreon page by clicking the link in the description below if you'd like to support what I do. And patrons get early access to all of my videos, their name in the credits as a supporter, and access to Patreon exclusive content, and you automatically save up for the Board Game Heaven enamel pin. And with that out of the way, let's set up a game. To set up a game of Grindhouse, take the playmat and put that in the middle of the playing area. Next, take all of these room cards, which have the door on the back. Give that deck a shuffle and put out 4 cards on the first 4 room spots. And also take the final room cards, which are these cards with the red outline. They're a bit more difficult than the regular rooms. Give that deck a shuffle as well and take 1 card and put that on the final room spot. Take all of these persona cards, give that deck a shuffle, and give every player 2 cards from which they then pick one. You look at them secretly, you pick one of those 2 cards. So I'll keep this one, for example, and give the other one back, and that returns to the box. Then take the items deck, give that a shuffle, and also give 2 item cards to every player. Keep the item deck nearby. Again, secretly look at the 2 cards you were dealt, pick one of those and just keep it hidden for the other players. And the discarded card gets shuffled back into the items deck. The game comes with 7 blood dice. Just give every player 1 of those dice. And then have all the players pick one of these 6 character cards. So you just pick 1 card. They're all the same. They just have a different bio and a different reason why their character is participating on this Grindhouse excursion. If you want, you can put your persona card on this. Personally, I like to keep it in my hand so I can read what it says, of course. And every character also has 6 of these tiles with wounded limbs, a body and head on one side, and a severed limb or a leg, arms and legs, on the other side. And the torso, if that is wounded twice, it'll have this skull and crossbones on it. Same for the head. You can get 1 wound, or you can get decapitated. And when you see that symbol, that means you've become the ghost. And I'll explain that in the rules in a bit. So just take all of these tiles, keep them to the side for now, because you start out with a completely healthy body. Then every player rolls their die to decide who gets to go first. Highest number, of course, starts. And if there's a tie, the tied players roll again. And once all of that is done, the whole setup is complete and you're ready to play. So let's explain the rules. So during Grindhouse, you will be opening doors and going into rooms, trying to make it all the way through the mansion until you reach the final room. And if you survive that, you have survived, and you will start counting points to see who is the winner. So starting with the first player, the player who rolled highest, you open the first door. So this player, if this was the first player, of course, takes the card, flips it around, and you read a bit of flavor text at the top there, and then the card will tell you something to do. So let's have a look at this card up close. So here it says, choose 1 survivor to retrieve the key from the woman's neck. Of course, that is clear in the flavor text here. And that survivor must roll a die. Then it says stop. So first, before you read on, the person reading, of course, chooses 1 survivor in this case, and then will be a different text every time. And then that survivor rolls a die. After that's done, you continue reading. And then you refer to a table below, which will usually tell you the results of that die roll. And then you just execute what the card says. And once a room is completely resolved, the next player in row in clockwise order takes the second door, opens it, and reads that card. And this one, for example, here has again a bit of a blurb, a story that happens in this attic. And then it says each round, which means you're gonna take rounds, rolling dice in this case. So each round, all survivors take 1 wound, so everybody takes a wound, and then roll a die. If at least two dice results are the same, you find the light switch and turn the light back on. If not, all survivors roll again for another round. So this has players rolling dice until 2 people roll the same result, which is of course a lot easier with a lot of players than it is with, for example, 2 players. So it could get very hairy. But once that happens, you stop rolling, you stop taking wounds. Now, every time you would take a wound, if the card doesn't specify exactly what you wound, it could say an arm or a leg, or it could say a limb, which also means arms or legs. It sometimes will say your torso or your head, but that usually specifies that on the card. So in this case, you just take a wound. In that case, you get to choose. So you could say, okay, I'm gonna wound an arm. So you take this tile with the wounded arm, the other side will have a severed arm. So you take the wounded arm and you place it on this spot. And as you can see, these character boards have 2 points for every body part. These wounded body parts only have 1 point. And if you lose it completely, then of course you don't have any points there anymore. There's nothing on this tile. So this is how you wound your character. And at the end of the game, of course, those are the points you score. Sometimes a persona card will tell you to score your remaining limbs differently. And there can be also completely different winning conditions. You might score points for being the only survivor. You might score points for having killed somebody, because you can turn on each other here. And as an example, this psychopath card here says at any point during the game you may reveal this card to instantly kill another survivor and gain +3 points. Now you see here this skull and crossbones that I already touched on. That means you're dead, you're a ghost, and when you're a ghost, this doesn't score anymore, but the bottom part does. So in this case it says you may wound 2 different survivors' limbs of your choice at the end of each room. If a player has no limbs, you may wound their head. And you win the game if there are no survivors. So then you're the only winner, unless, of course, again, another card from another player says differently. Because there might be multiple winners still, depending on what cards you have. So if, or perhaps I should say when, your survivor dies, you become a ghost and you're not out of the game. So there's no player elimination. Everybody gets to play until the very end of the game. So again, you can lose limbs, and technically that is not a problem. You can still survive without all of your limbs. But if you take a single head or a single torso wound, you're still alive. But if you take a second one, either a second head wound or a second torso wound, then you will become a ghost, as indicated by that icon on the tile. And you just keep taking turns, opening doors and resolving cards, reading the text and doing what it says until you've gone through all 4 of these cards, and then you go to the final room and you flip that one over, and it's basically just another room. It's just usually a lot harder, and your items will usually help you during this journey. So if you have an item that you can use at a certain point to either survive or to just get extra points or whatever, then that is a good time to use it and reveal that item. And some of these cards will tell you to draw another item, so you might get more than one. Sometimes players can steal an item from somebody else, and for example here we have the cursed amulet. So I got that at the start of the game, and it says this item is cursed. If you draw this item, you must take it. So if I would draw that later in the game, then I had no choice to take this. Perhaps even at the start, it doesn't really specify, but we took this one. And it says, reveal this item at any time to equip. So you don't have to equip it right away, but you can. It cannot be unequipped though. And you become immune to torso wounds. Not head wounds, those can still kill you, but torso wounds won't kill you because you won't take any. And this item cannot be stolen. But at any time you take a wound, any wound at all, you roll an additional die afterward. If you roll a 1, you take 2 torso wounds, which means, of course, that you immediately die, and you're not immune from that. And if you roll a 2 to 6, nothing happens. So every time you would take any wound, you have to roll a die, and you have a 1 in 6 chance of just instantly dying and becoming a ghost. And that's pretty much it. At the end of the game, you just tally up your remaining points or any additional points that you might have gotten from items or your persona cards or any other winning conditions. And those are all the rules for playing Grindhouse. So let's go to my final thoughts. So my final thoughts on Grindhouse by Everything Epic Games. Let's start with the components. So you get a whole bunch of cards, of course. I like that these door cards are nice and big because there is a lot of text on them. The text is pretty small though, so that might be a problem for some people. You might need your reading glasses. I can definitely not read this too close. I'll need to take off my glasses to read this. But it is readable, I think, but it's pretty small. There's a lot of text though, and I like that about Everything Epic Games. They put a lot of flavor text, a lot of lore in their games. There's definitely a lot of immersion here and a lot of theme. And otherwise, yeah, the components are good. We got the game mat, which I like. You get an actual game mat to put your cards on, which is great. Makes it easier to pick up the cards if you don't have a table filling mat. You get your character boards, which are nice, or just, you know, thinner cardboard, but that's fine. You put them flat on the table anyway, and you just needed to put all those tiles on that have all of your limbs and your body and your head to indicate if you got, you know, mangled, pretty much. And they have nice art on them as well, which I will touch on in a second. And you get a bunch of really nice, big, chunky D6 dice, which have the blood on them. These blood dice, that is really cool. Also very thematic with the golden numbers engraved on all sides. So that is pretty cool. I really love them. They're nice and big and chunky. And then you get a bunch of persona cards, which don't really have anything special on them, just text really. And same for the item cards. They do have some art on them, but it's just like a white outline of, you know, an item that you find. Nothing special, just basically kind of like clip art and some text, again in very, very small letters. So yeah, you might have a little bit of trouble with that, but otherwise, yeah. And also the tiles are of a very good quality and the standard, you know, nice and sturdy tile thickness. So that's everything you get in that box. You do also get a mini expansion called Krampus, which has extra doors in the, you know, Christmas theme, but it's not Santa Claus, it's Krampus coming to visit you with a couple of new items, a couple of new persona cards, and a bunch of new doors and you know, like final rooms as well. So that's nice that they included a mini expansion right off the bat, so you can see if you want to expand on the game if you enjoyed it. So components are pretty good. The artwork, there's not a lot of it, but the artwork that's there is nice. I like the art of the characters. They're very colorful, they're very nice. They look a bit cartoony, but really cool, really well done. Otherwise, there's just, you know, the door, which is drawn on the cards, of course. And that's pretty much it because, well, the mat, of course. The box has a really nice haunted house on the cover, which looks awesome. And the mat also features that same house. So that's pretty cool. But otherwise, there's no, like I said, no art on the cards of the rooms or on the items or the persona. So yeah, there's not a lot of it, but it looks nice and thematic. So brings me to the theme. I love the theme. Again, Everything Epic Games always drip with theme. And I love that about their games. I think that's pretty cool. You really feel like, you know, you're survivors. You're going in this haunted mansion. There's a host that's throwing this get together, and whoever survives the night gets through all the rooms alive. They win like $10 million. It's a bit of like movies like Saw, Hostel, I guess Squid Games, all mixed together kind of in a more comical way. You know, the descriptions are like gruesome, but it's not overly gory or anything. It's fun. It's very tongue-in-cheek, and I like that about this game a lot. So it's also very light. So that brings me to the gameplay. It's really just a fun beer and pretzels light party game for 2 to 6 players. You're all this survivor, and you just draw cards and you read what it says in turn order, and you do what it says. And whenever there's like a stop line on it, you first resolve the top part, and somebody may have to volunteer, and you choose, or you just roll dice to determine who gets to volunteer. And sometimes you need to roll dice in turn order and then see what it does. So then once that is resolved, you check the result below the stop line, and then you see what actually happened. And that's just a lot of fun. And the text, again, on these cards are so thematic and so immersive that it's just a lot of fun. There's a lot of laughs in this game. It's certainly a tongue-in-cheek kind of horror game. It's very luck-based, of course, because you'll be rolling dice a lot and you never know the outcome. So there's that. You might get items that will help you with, mitigation of bad dice rolls. And you might get cards that will actually like regrow a limb or stuff like that happens. And there's even events in rooms where you might just get lucky and heal or regrow a limb or something like that, or stab somebody else in the back, because there's that as well. There's a lot of take that and backstabbing, but it's pretty random, and I do think that's not for everyone. So there might be people who think, well, this is very light and very random and the game almost plays itself. But I do feel that is its charm as well. This is, even though, it's horror and limbs get severed and stuff like that, it's kind of family friendly. I feel like, 13 and up would be fine. I'd be totally fine playing this with my son once he turns 13. And he'd probably laugh about what happens here as well. It's very tongue-in-cheek. And there is this tension of not knowing what's going to happen. So you read a bit of flavor text and you're like, okay, well, I guess we need to make a choice now. And well, okay, I'll make this choice, or I'll roll a die and then we'll see what happens. And that is kind of funny. It's funny. Again, it's very random, and sometimes you don't have a lot of say in what happens. It just happens. It's a roll of the dice. But you might have that 1 or 2 items that might help you out in that situation. And even if you lose all of your limbs, or even if you die, you get a head wound twice or a torso wound twice and you become a ghost, then you're still in the game, because then your persona card will tell you what to do when you're a ghost, and then you might still win and you have a whole new goal. And that's also pretty fun. I like that. Sometimes you look at your persona card and you're thinking, maybe I want to be a ghost real fast so I can do all kinds of dirty tricks to all the other players. And it's also very chaotic. The more players play this, the more hilarious it gets, in my opinion. I've played this with 2 players as well, and that was fun. That was just fine. But it did feel like it was over quicker with 2 people. And there are some cards that will just write out, say, hey, this card lets you just murder another player and they're dead. Which doesn't mean you've won, of course, because you still need to go through the entire house, all 5 cards, and survive if you want to win. And if that other player then is a ghost and they have a different winning condition, then they might still win the game. So, that doesn't mean that you've won, it just if you've killed another player. So there's that. And to me, that's a lot of fun. It's hilarious. It's tongue-in-cheek. It has a cool horror theme. There's randomness, there's dice rolling, there's that tension of, ooh, what will happen next? You might get a card or a curse or something that is bad, but you're trying to survive it. Or maybe you're trying to, I don't know, get an item that might rid you of that curse. You never know what's going to happen. Again, you don't have a whole lot of say in that. There's really no strategy here, but it is a lot of fun, in my opinion. The replayability then is, I think, pretty good. The base game alone has, as you can see, plenty of cards, a whole stack, and you only need 4 per game, plus 1 final room card, and there's plenty of those as well. And the game rules do suggest that once you've played through a couple of rooms, put them on the bottom of the deck and don't shuffle until you've gone through the whole stack. So you've seen all the rooms, and then maybe after that you shuffle them up. So you've played quite a few games before you've gone through all of them. So the replayability is pretty good. It's a fast game, again, although with more players, with 6 players, it's still a fast game, but it's a bit slower because, you know, people are taking turns rolling dice. You could roll simultaneously. There's plenty of dice. There's 7 of them. So, yeah, you could do that. But sometimes you need to take turns to do something. And people are using items and stuff is happening in between these rooms. So, yeah, it doesn't overstay its welcome. And I'd rather actually sooner play a second game or maybe even a third after finishing one game because it's just so much fun. I think it's hilarious. And if that is still not enough for you, there's a whole bunch of extra expansions here that each of these add not just new cards, there's new rooms, there's new final rooms, there's sometimes even new mechanisms to add to the game, which is pretty cool. They add some tokens or cards that add a new mechanism to the game. There's like this carnival, what's it called again? Carnival. It's just called Carnival. And there's Cthulhu as well. And though the Carnival, for example, has like tickets that you can gain during the game, and you can negate 1 wound by sacrificing 2 tickets. And there's some other stuff going on. The Cthulhu one has madness, and that just spices up the game a bit, you know, adds some fun new things to do. So if you're a fan of this kind of game, if you love these silly tongue-in-cheek party games where everybody's trying to win and, you know, temporary alliances maybe and help each other, but then we're going to gang up on that player and, you know, they're far ahead. They have all their limbs intact. So if I need to pick a survivor to lose a limb, yeah, that's going to be the player. And there's going to be laughs. It's an hilarious game. So if you enjoy that, you may want to pick up a number of these or just all of them in the expansion collection, which comes with this really cool, nice black box to store them all in. Finally, there's the language dependency. This is, of course, a very language-heavy game. There's a lot of text on all of these cards, of course, that you need to read. Because it's so thematic, there's a lot to read. So you definitely need a very good grasp of the English language to be able to play this. Otherwise, it's going to be pretty difficult for you or the players at your table. So that's that. Not for everyone, but certainly a lot of fun if you're with the right people at the right time. It's hilarious. I really enjoy this. I enjoy a good humoristic kind of horror game where you're trying to backstab people and just trying to come out as the winner and leave the others in the dust. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And please also check out my Patreon page by clicking the link in the description below or the icon at the end of this video. Have a happy Halloween, and I'll see you next time on Board Game Heaven.